Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. 7 researchers discuss features of the Wilaya of Bahla in Omani history and civilization. Syrian foreign minister says that Damascus is ready to enter Geneva peace talks. And 2 Palestinians are killed by Israeli fire in separate incidents in the West Bank. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. A forum was held in the Wilaya of Bahla showcasing features from the history and civilization of Bahla and mainly aims to highlight the role of this Wilaya in the Omani history. The forum dealt with 7 researchers that portray various aspects, particularly the social life in Bahla, its geological and geographical nature, its historical traces, its political role during the reign of Bani Nabhan, and the civilization of the area of Salut. The researchers further illustrated the scientific movement in Bahla and its developed infrastructure. At the end of the forum, the researchers were honored. Oman International Maritime College launched the dynamic simulator to its educational training system in the section of Transformative Operations Technique Engineering. The system depends on 3-dimensional operation that provide modern practical simulation, stemmed from the work nature at companies and institutions specialized in transformative operations and petrochemical industries. This technique aims to provide basic circumstances for training and acquaints the learners with the capability to face all work hindrances. Qaboos, My Father, is the title of a collection of stories composed by Zainab Al-Gharibi. The stories are meant to acquaint youngsters with parts of His Majesty the Sultan's life. The collection includes different topics related to woman, child, and boosting patriotism to the children, and are written both in Arabic and English. The curtain was drawn on the activities of the 4th Unified Gulf Inmate Week in the Governorate of Muscat. The week witnessed the participation of the Royal Oman Police, represented by the Directorate General of Prisons, along with its counterparts from other Gulf countries. The week aimed to contribute to involving inmates in the society through spreading awareness messages, in addition to highlighting the efforts exerted by the bodies concerned in the rehabilitation process. The closing ceremony included an exhibition of female and male inmates' products. The exhibition was organized by the Directorate General of Prisons in cooperation with other governmental bodies concerned. The exhibition showcased handicrafts and fine arts created by the inmates. The Directorate also organized competitions of knowledge and sports for the inmates in order to rehabilitate and engage them in the society. Still to come in a news bulletin. A team crossing Arabian desert continues its journey on foot. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Syria is ready to participate in peace talks in Geneva aimed at ending its brutal civil war. The country's foreign minister said today during an official visit to China. Syria is ready to participate in the Syrian dialogue in Geneva without any foreign interference. Walid Muallim said during a press briefing following his meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. China is a permanent member of the UN Security Council, which last week gave its its unanimous support to a plan to end the Syrian conflict by summoning rebels and the government to the negotiating table. He added Damascus would compose a constitutional committee to look for a new constitution with a new law of election, so the parliamentary election will be held within the period of 18 months. With crucial backing from the United States and Russia, the UN plan aims to agree a ceasefire in Syria, possibly in January, when talks could also begin. The Daesh group has expanded its control inside an eastern Syrian city after clashes and suicide attacks killed at least 26 regime fighters. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that Daesh militants seized the industrial neighborhood in the city of Deir ez-Zor after a fierce offensive that began yesterday morning. The attack began when 3 Daesh suicide bombers drove explosive-laden cars into the neighborhood, killing at least 11 members of pro-government forces. The ensuing violent clashes, airstrikes, and exchange of shelling brought the toll up to 26 government loyalists and 12 Daesh militants. A top Russian diplomat says Moscow won't stop its airstrikes on Daesh group positions in Syria if and when a ceasefire is announced. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov said in an interview today that the ceasefire is meant to happen between parties of the Syrian domestic conflict, but that this doesn't mean an end to war on Daesh and other terrorist groups. Bogdanov said Russia should use any lull in hostilities to intensify its airstrikes on Daesh militants. Iraqi forces battled the last Daesh militants holed up in the center of Ramadi city today, slowed in their advance by stiff resistance, traps, and fears for trapped civilians. Fighting raged around the former government headquarters in Ramadi, a key position whose recapture by federal forces would mark another key step toward reclaiming the city they lost to the Daesh group in May. And a wave of attacks across Iraq killed at least 15 civilians as government forces pressed on with their offensive to dislodge Daesh from a major city west of Baghdad. The UN Security Council gave its backing to the new national unity government in embattled Libya, a move it hopes will help stem mass migration to Europe and reverse gains made by militants from Daesh group. The 15-nation council gave its support to the deal signed last week in the Moroccan town of Skhirat between representatives of strife-torn Libya's two competing regimes. The United Nations envoy to Libya, Martin Kobler, is now working on arrangements to allow the unity government to safely set up shop in Tripoli, which is under the control of militia fighters. Around 80 of the 188 lawmakers from Libya's internationally recognized parliament and 50 of 136 members of the rival Tripoli-based General National Congress signed the deal. The agreement calls for a 17-member government headed by businessman Faiz al-Sarraj as premier, based in the Libyan capital. A presidential council would also serve for a transitional period of 2 years until legislative elections. A Palestinian stabbed 2 security guards at an Israeli settlement while another tried to attack soldiers with a screwdriver in the West Bank today, with both assailants shot dead. The first incident occurred at an entrance to an industrial zone at the Ariel settlement, the largest in the north of the occupied West Bank, while the other was near Hebron in the southern West Bank. They were the latest in a wave of attacks that began in October. Palestinian security sources said the attacker's body was with Israeli authorities and they were not yet able to identify him. 18 people, including 6 children, drowned today after a boat carrying migrants sank off Turkey's western coastal town of Dikili Dugan. The Turkish Coast Guard rescued another 21 migrants from the sea, including a 1-year-old baby, and is still searching for 2 more people from the wooden boat, which capsized due to rough seas and overloading. The U.S. launched airstrikes to bolster Afghan forces scrambling today to beat back Taliban insurgents who seized large swathes of a key opium-rich district following the first British deployment to the volatile region in 14 months. The Taliban group claimed to have captured nearly the entire district of Sangin after storming its front lines on Sunday, tightening their grip on the southern Helmand province. A NATO spokesman said in a brief statement that U.S. forces conducted 2 strikes in Sangin. The British and U.S. intervention has fueled the perception that foreign powers are increasingly being drawn back into the conflict as Afghan forces struggle to rein in the Taliban. Flooding caused by heavy rains has forced the evacuation of more than 70,000 people in Paraguay. Authorities say the Paraguay River rose to nearly 7.2 meters yesterday after weeks of torrential rains. That's near its highest level of 1983 when it reached 7.72 meters. Paraguay's National Emergency Secretariat said about 72,000 people have been forced out of their homes in the Paraguayan capital. But many more are expected to be affected nationwide by the swelling of the Prana and other rivers. Communities living in low-lying slums are especially at risk. Most are seeking shelter in camps on higher ground where they're sleeping in improvised tents. Congress issued a state of emergency last week and authorized the government to spend $4 million to assist flood-hit families. A 4-member team crossing the Arabian Desert continued their journey, walking and riding on camels through the Arabian Desert. They travel a distance of 25 kilometers daily since the start of their journey on the 10th of December from the city of Salalah to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The British traveler Mark Evans writes in a diary on everything that happens and the people he met during the journey. He aims to publish a book about the journey. On the other side, a team of technical support sent pictures of the journey to local and international media means. In front of a campfire at night, the team members discuss the duties for the next day before they go to sleep. At sunrise, they start their onward journey. Plantation of palm trees, lemon trees and mango are spread all over the Jebel al-Abyad in the wilaya of Dama wa Tayin in the governorate of North Sharqiya. Citizens plant these trees on terraced landscape. Due to the good climate that Al-Jebel al-Abyad enjoys, citizens also plant wheat, garlic and grass. They irrigate their plants using water flow through a rivulet originating from the mountains. It is worth mentioning that Al-Jebel al-Abyad is famous for mango trees and date palm farms. Now for the general weather forecast. Clear to partly cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas overlooking the Sea of Oman with chances of scattered rainfall. Rest of the Sultanate will have clear skies. Winds will be easterly to northeasterly light to moderate, occasionally active over the coastal areas. Seas will be moderate to rough along the coast of the Arabian Sea with a maximum wave height of 2.5 meters. Along the rest of the Sultanate's coast, it will be slight to moderate with a maximum wave height of 1.75 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. 7 researchers discuss features of the wilaya of Bahla in Omani history and civilization. Syrian foreign minister says that Damascus is ready to enter Geneva peace talks. And 2 Palestinians are killed by Israeli fire in separate incidents in the West Bank. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.